Town of Hempstead's Town Board meeting for September 20th, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Supervisor Clayton.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
I'm here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilman Gooseby. Councilman Moscarella.
Here. And I'm going to ask our Town Clerk to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you sit, if everybody can give a moment of silence to our late Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg, a true advocate, a terrible loss for the judiciary. Please join me. Thank you. Because of the governor's executive orders and also because of the COVID-19 pandemic, today's public hearings will allow for both in-person participation and telephonic participation using the GoToWebinar. Instructions for the telephonic participation using GoToWebinar, as well as the pertinent documents regarding today's public hearings, are available on the town's website. After the clerk calls each public hearing, the public who are at Town Hall will first make their comments, and then our participants at the GoToWebinar will be allowed to comment. All participants at GoToWebinar must pay attention to the case being called by our town clerk. When the public hearing is closed on which you wish to speak, you must click on the raise your hand icon, the GoToWebinar, as explained on the instructions on the town's website. If you do not click on the raise your hand button when the public hearing is on and you wish to be heard, you will not be called. All participants on the GoToWebinar must be muted until the moderator calls your name to speak. You must pay attention for your name and begin speaking when your name is called by our moderator, and then we will go on to the next participant. The moderator will not recall anyone's name, so please carefully pay attention so we do not get missed. If you're participating in the GoToWebinar and watching on live stream, then you must mute your live stream when you turn on to speak, or you will not understand you. The reason is, frankly, because we all know it's called feedback. Every participant will be given one chance to speak for up to 3 minutes in accordance with the town board rules. When you are done speaking or your time is up, the moderator will again mute you on the GoToWebinar. At the end of the public hearings portion of this meeting, the GoToWebinar will be turned off, and I encourage all those who are using the GoToWebinar to continue listening and watching the meeting on the town's live stream webpage. Please also note that anyone using profanity or straying completely off topic will immediately be dropped or muted by our moderator. Madam Clerk, please call the first public hearing.
We have the petition of the Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the one-story wood frame, one-family dwelling and remove all litter and debris from a property located in Belmar.
Is there anyone here at Town Hall who wishes to be heard on this matter? I believe I do have a number of slips, so I will start with Mauritian Arthur. Oh, he's David, 6'4", so. Oh, then we'll do it the easy old-fashioned way. Is there anybody here at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this matter? Please let us know right now. Okay. I'm going to go down to our webinar. We'll call you the moderator again. I think it's a nice moniker for you there.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor, members of the board, no one has clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter?
Real quick on this, this is a property that I've received a lot of complaints from my constituents, and I'm looking forward to passing this item.
Any other board member wish to be heard on this matter? If not, they have a motion to adopt this item.
I move that we adopt this item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilman Moscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a petition of the Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the one-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with 2 detached garages and remove all litter and debris from the property in Seaford.
Does any member of the audience wish to be heard on this? Please, if you can, you walk up to the podium, give us your name and address. We'd appreciate that very much. And good morning. Sir.
My name is Arthur Schnittler. I forget what else we're
You speak a little bit louder. I didn't get you that. I want to make sure everybody can hear you. That's all.
Arthur Schnittler, 632 Rutherford Drive, Seaford.
Morning. You'd like to be heard?
Yes, the property is being addressed. I have contractors on, with proposals, and they have been submitted to your department in someplace. And I just wish consideration can be given on the subject.
Mr. Rodkin?
Good morning, Supervisor, members of the town board. There was a small fire in the basement of this property on September 3rd, 2019, about a year ago. We received numerous complaints about this property, burning, all the utilities are off, windows are broken due to the fire, debris, egress and egress is blocked due to the non-reporting of the structure. We did speak with the homeowners prior to the meeting, and we told them that we would work with them and allowing them to clean it out and move forward with it. However, it is my recommendation to the board to pass this legislation so that in case the homeowners cannot complete the work, we can move forward.
You understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you know, likely we might pass it, but we still want you to work with it to see if you can resolve the issue, okay?
Very good, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I know I have another slip on this matter. I will look for Carl Tragone. Mr. Tragone, when they're done wiping it down, if you can go over there to the back podium, if you'd be kind enough, just give your name and address for the record. You can go right around the back. Good morning. Give your name and address for the record.
At 179 Old New York, 175. On behalf of Randall, my son's cutting-edge printing and finished art company is DBA. He's expediting work. So what I did was I wrote a proposal of work that needs to be done on his home so he can be able to move back in. I had previous experiences with this type of situation, so through the church, we're going to volunteers to help him out, and we're going to try to get him back in his home. So we just need time.
And maybe after the meeting, it'll take a couple of moments. We have a room in the back with safety measures in effect, and you could talk to Mr. Rodkamp or other members of the building department about the proposal. And we appreciate that. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
But you understand that if they can't get it done, we should pass this in case you can't get it done, then we can go ahead and do.
Yes, I do understand.
Thank you.
I will make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We hope you can.
Thank you very much. Does any other member of the audience that is here today wish to be heard on this matter? Mr. Moderator, give us a status on the webinar. At this time, we'd ask residents to, of course, raise their hand if they want to be heard on it.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
Motion to close the hearing and vote on the item.
Is that motion to adopt?
Adopted or something.
Second. Clerk?
Supervisor Clavin?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Carini?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilman Moscarello?
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
We have a petition of the Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with 2 detached garages, and to remove all litter and debris from a property located in West Hempstead.
Is there anyone here at the town board present that wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, if not, if you're participating in the go-to webinar, now's the time to click raise your hand button.
Supervisor, one participant has clicked raise your hand. Ray Ann Havasey. Ray Ann Havasey, please go ahead and begin your comment.
Oh, Ms. Havasey, hold on for 1 second. I don't think we can hear you very clearly. If there's a chance you can speak into your mic a little bit louder so we can make sure we all hear you clearly. That'd be great. You want to try it again? We can barely hear you when they think the volume issue is on your end of this.
Completely up. I can't turn it any higher.
Okay, let's give it a whirl. Crank up the volume and see if we can hear it. If you can give your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Brianne Patterson, Tanglewood Road, Rockville Center.
Okay.
So I am not speaking in opposition to demolishing Kite at all. I am speaking about issues that's kind of tangential. And that is living at that facility and me taking care of have been 18 cats. I'm spending between $700 and $1,000 a month.
Now, ma'am, are you speaking on the building department application? Because that's the only focus we have right now.
Oh, I was speaking on a tangential issue. Okay, you know what? I'll get in touch with my council person and we get that way.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You have a great day. Is there anybody else in the go-to webinar with their hand raised?
Supervisor, no other participant has their hand raised on this public hearing.
Outstanding job, Mr. Moderator. Does any board member wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the item be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in North Valley Stream, Oceanside, and West Hempstead.
Okay. I do not see any slips, but does anybody here present at Town Hall wish to be heard on this matter? Great. Mr. Moderator, get ready. We're going to tell people on the go-to webinar to now raise their hand with the button. And I'm going to ask you to identify if anybody has raised their hand.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Moving along here. Does anybody, member of the board, wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
We have a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Franklin Square, Merrick, North Valley Stream, Oceanside, Union Hill, and West Hempstead.
We do not have any slips on this matter. Does anybody here at Town Hall wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, at this time, if you're on the go-to webinar, please click the raise your hand button. And Mr. Moderator, do you see any hands raised on this?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Franklin Square, Levittown, Oceanside, Seaford, and Woodmere.
I do not have any slips on this. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Okay, now is your chance, if you are on the go-to webinar, to click that raise your hand icon. And now I will ask our moderator to let us know if anybody has clicked that.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? And if not, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding bus stops in Merrick.
Okay, I got a couple of people who wish to hear this. We'll start with Diane Madden. Morning, can you give your name and address to the record, please?
Actually, Diane Madden, I had a question real quickly. The 18 cats, the caller just came in.
We're dealing with this motion right now regarding the bus stops.
All right, first of all, I didn't sign in for the bus stop issue.
Okay, then you know what, that it was listed incorrectly. Appreciate it. Do you have a question?
I would like to know who the council people are for that issue. There was a woman that called in here. She's probably desperate at this
Are you
point.
commenting on the bus
Can you
stop?
please tell me who the council person is for the woman that just called in?
Ms. Madden, are you speaking about the bus stop issue or not?
Not at this time, but I'd
Okay, then
appreciate you
we'll
answering
bring
my
you up
question.
later on when we're talking about the subject you want to bring up later.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. It's always a pleasure.
Same here.
Does anybody else present here today wish to talk about this hearing? Okay, and if not, I have to the go-to webinar, and now's your chance to click that button. Mr. Moderator,
We have a participant.
what do we got?
Valerie Lamb. Ms. Lamb, you're unmuted. You are now live. Please make your comments.
Maybe name and address for the record, Ms. Lamb?
Can you hear me?
Yep, yes.
Okay, great. It's Valerie Lamb, Massachusetts, New York, and St. Augustine, Florida.
And what?
And St. Augustine.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to say, you brought the center, Diane, and that's Councilman Esposito, I believe.
Okay, do you have any comment regarding this issue for the town board on the bus stops? Or the, yeah, for the bus stops?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Mr. Moderator, are there any other hands in relation to the actual subject here, which are the bus stops?
Supervisor, no other participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, great. Does any board member wish to be heard on this? If not, they have a motion.
I move the item be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini. Councilman Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
We have a proposed handicap parking on public streets in Belmore, Elmont, North Valley Stream, Oceanside, and Uniondale.
Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Okay, if you're at home watching on GoToWebinar, now's your chance to click that icon and raise your hand, and I will ask our moderator to let us know if anybody has done that.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, great. Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? If not, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed amendment of section 433 of chapter 43 of the building zone ordinance of the town of Hempstead in relation to the inclusion of certain parcels into the neighborhood business overlay district in Inwood.
I have one slip on this matter. I see you walking up there. If you give your name and address for the record.
Morning, Supervisor.
Morning.
Members of the town board. My name is Roy Meseroff. I live at 216 Elizabeth Street, Inwood.
Is your floor, sir? You'd like to be heard on this?
I'm here this morning as a representative of the Inwood Civic Association, probably my 60th year coming here, and we are appreciative of all that the town government does too. We're in the far corner, southwest corner of the township, so we appreciate your keeping an eye on things there, and I know you depend on us to bring things to your attention. So this item, the Neighborhood Business Overlay District, I know Councilman Blakeman is very interested in this particular concerns land around our two railroad. Inwood actually has two railroad stations, Inwood and the Village of Lawrence. They're right there. And there's plans to improve. So I've not been well, so I haven't been able to do the research on this. But we trust that whatever happens as a result of this particular proposal, I believe it's, let me just think a minute, Rockaway Turnpike and...
Yeah, do you want me to explain that to you?
Yeah, if you would.
Sure. And listen, thank you for all your help in the community, for all the years that you've served. You are one of the outstanding community leaders, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate you coming down here, and we're happy to see you in good health, to be able to come down here. So thank you, first of all.
Appreciate it.
When we did the transportation-oriented district in Inwood and North Lawrence, we realized that there would have to be modifications made based on community input. One of the things that is not on the calendar today that might be on the calendar in the future is we've been approached by people who live around Dowdy Boulevard who have indicated that they would like to opt out of the transportation-oriented district because all of the buildings on Dowdy Boulevard in that area are all occupied, they're thriving, they are good-looking buildings, some of them are historic buildings, and the thought was that they would like to leave it the way it is. So that's something that we're considering removing from the transportation-oriented district in the future. But this came about because there is some blighted properties along Rockaway Turnpike and Mott, particularly on the north side of Mott at the intersection of Rockaway. One is a gas station that has been vacant for many, many years. Some of the property owners in the community have asked whether that could be part of the transportation-oriented district because it is approximately 2 blocks from the railroad. It is, I believe, equidistant between the Village of Cedarhurst station and the Lawrence Railroad station. So we said that we would consider that. So today we're considering that. In the very near future, we will consider reducing the transportation-oriented district along, Dowdy Boulevard in Inwood. So if you had any comments on either one of those, we'd appreciate hearing from you.
Well, I have no particular, I trust, Inwood is a hotbed, part of the fabulous 5 towns. Inwood has a particular role it seems to play with gardening services and things like that. So it's possible it can get out of control. So we're happy what you're doing to try to keep it under control. Land use, there's only so much land, and we've got to control the use of it. So I appreciate all that's being done on behalf of our association. We appreciate all your efforts and all the members of the town, because I know you're all part of it, yes.
Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for that bit of information and to that, yeah, sorry to delay the hearing. I'm involved in the next one too, should I go ahead with that?
Now, we'll call the next one, we'll bring you right back up.
Okay.
It's good to see you, thank you for coming today. Okay. Next person that put in that wanted to be heard on this was Frank Masarola. Mr. Masarola, if you can just wait a second. After he's done, they're going to be wiped down there if you'd like to be heard on this. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Frank. Anybody else in the audience wish to be heard on this matter? If not, I'm going to now ask anybody on the GoToWebinar to click that raise your hand icon right now. And I'm going to ask the moderator if anybody has clicked that icon.
Supervisor, No participant click raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, does any board member wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, I move that the public hearing be closed and the amendment adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blake.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Yes. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have the application of Johnson Land Group LLC to operate a gasoline service station and convenience store, as well as area, sign, and parking variance relief from the gasoline service station district, also in Inwood.
I'm going to, of course, ask if anybody here at Town Hall wishes to be heard. I know we already have contestant number 1 right up here. Welcome back.
Good. Happy to be here. Please.
You can be heard on the item, please.
Mr. Supervisor, is there going to be a presentation on this? Maybe it would be better if Mr. Mesereau heard the presentation first and then you commentate on it.
Mr. Mesereau,
Is that okay?
why don't we make you comfortable right back there? I know they have a seat back there for you. They're going to make their presentation, and then we'll have you heard on this, okay? No problem. Okay. Applicant here? Please, if the applicants would go up to the podium to start their presentation. Thank you. And please identify with your name and address for the record. Frankie, you good back there? He's good behind you?
Right, we're good, I guess.
Okay.
For the applicant, David Altman from the law office of Brown and Altman LLP, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301W, Melville, New York. Good to see everybody. I'm glad to see everybody is healthy, and thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to present on behalf of JANTA this particular application. Just a few housekeeping matters, if I might, Mr. Supervisor, so I can just get rid of some of this paper, which would be the mound of certified mailing receipt green cards that came back. I'd like to submit those in the record. And just for the record, we recognizing the apartment complex that we had to our meeting east of the subject site, we actually were able to at least obtain the unit numbers for that, and mailings were done to all those particular apartment units. So I think the certified mailing encompassed in total roughly 200 plus people. So we tried to cover as much of the area as we feasibly could. In addition to submitting the certified mailing receipt green cards, Mr. Supervisor, I have a series of exhibits which are denoted in my cover letter dated September 22nd. Included in that are a real estate report prepared by Breslin Appraisal Company dated September 15th. And just summarizing the appraisal report, the conclusion is no adverse impact to property values or character of the community. And also we have with us, I'm submitting to the record, a traffic and parking study prepared by Stonefield Engineering, dated September 22, 20. Again, finding no adverse impact to traffic patterns or roadway capacity and parking sufficient for the particular use. I'd like to submit this package into the record as well. Thank you very much. So I will be brief, Mr. Supervisor. The property, which is 50 Sheridan Boulevard in Inwood, is known by Nassau County Tax Map number 40-057, Lot 198. It is currently zoned URDHC, and I'll note for the record under the town code that gasoline filling stations are permitted use, subject to town board approval, and then of course the GSS overlay regulations of this town. Property is approximately 14,409 square feet. It is a mid-block site situated on the east side of Sheridan Boulevard. The existing improvements which are there today, and we acknowledge are in a poor state of repair at best, are all going to be removed. This is complete raise and rebuild. In fact, with me today is Chris Tartaglia from High Point Engineering, the civil engineers who prepared the plans that are in front of you for consideration. And I will note that his office has already filed with the Town Building Department a demolition permit to remove the existing improvements. The new improvements or the new gasoline station will consist of a 2,143 square foot convenience store situated along the north lot line of the site. That building will be probably about 47% of the square footage of the existing buildings today, such that the actual building square footage will be reduced by 53%. There will be a small 10 by 10 chain link trash enclosure at the northeast corner. There will be an overhead pump island canopy measuring 30 by 74 or approximately 2,200 square feet. The applicant also proposes 6 multi-product fuel dispensers, 3 rows of 2 parallel to Sheridan Boulevard, and I'll note for the record that the dispensers closest to Sheridan will be what they call 3-in-1 dispensers, which will allow for small pickup trucks and things of that nature to fuel with diesel. The existing curb cuts on the site will be closed, and we will be putting in two curb cuts as opposed to the 3 that exist today, right in, right out. There will be 2 15,000-gallon underground storage tanks. In addition, the proposed ground sign, which does require variance relief and is part of the overall relief sought from this honorable board today, will be situated at the southwest corner. We are also putting a 25-foot flagpole at the northwest corner, proximate to the western side of the proposed convenience store building. I will note for the, again for the record, the character of the area is mixed, but along Inwood, along Sheridan rather, in this particular area, it is commercial and in certain instances heavy commercial, with the exception of the apartment complex to our immediate east. And as to that particular apartment complex, I will note that one of the parking lots that services that apartment complex actually serves as a buffer, so is in between the apartment units and the east lot line of the subject premises. To the south of us, we have a parking lot used for an ambulance facility, and then as you go further south, you actually have the Sunoco service station, which is about 300 feet to our south, as well as with a fairly significant U-Haul self-storage facility. To the west, of course, we have Sheridan Boulevard, and then we have the Inwood Terminal and the National Grid natural gas facilities. To the north, we have, in keeping with the character of the area, an automotive repair facility, and approximately 300 feet on the north of us, on the west side of Sheridan, there is an ExxonMobil. This particular facility that Janta proposed to build will be a Bola franchise. I know many members of this board are quite familiar with the Bola brand. We've done many applications with this town over the years. And just to reiterate, Bola is the top of the line and has been recognized both regionally and nationally as one of the top of the line gasoline and convenience store operators in this country. Bola prepared, and Janta for that matter, are prepared and would like to bring that level of high quality service, architecture, and community involvement to this part of the town of Hempstead, and we hope that the Inwood community would welcome us. Ground signage is also part of this relief. I'm not going to go through the full call as set forth in the application, but just to note that the ground sign, which again is at the southwest corner and is, as proposed, is consistent with other ground signage approved by this honorable board on other Bola applications, will be approximately 21 feet in height and about 95 square feet in area. It will have the Shell brand of gas, and I apologize for any inconvenience or confusion that may have been caused. I know this application was originally submitted as a Sunoco. It will be branded as a Shell, and the relief that's requested by Janta and by Bola as part of this application is consistent with what's submitted in that regard.
Councilor,
Yes, Mr. Blair.
yeah, let me ask you, I'm looking through all the documents. I don't see a landscape plan. Usually we see a landscape plan submitted. Have you submitted one? Is there something that
Yeah, the landscape plan was in fact submitted, Councilman Blakeman. Chris, let me see, do you have an extra copy that we can share?
In addition, typically there's some kind of rendering when there's a new a proposal to remove the existing building and install a new one. Is there a rendering of what this might look like, including the signage?
The answer to that is yes, it's been provided. I'll ask Chris Tartaglia to step up if you don't mind. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, David. Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. For the record, my name is Chris Tartaglia, owner of the firm High Point Engineering, located at 521 Conklin Street, Farmingdale, New York. Mr. Blakeman, yes, as with the COVID and the modifications or the constraints that we've had now with the hearing room here, typically we have an electronic display up on these boards, and I do actually have a thumb drive, but I don't want to slow things down. I do have the old-fashioned method, though. If anybody would want them, I have colored renderings of the site, the landscaping, and the building here with me. I can certainly hand those up. I have 10 copies. Give one to the gentleman behind me from the Civic Association and have 9 to give out, if that's okay.
Okay, I think I have a partial landscape plan here.
Yes, Mr. Blakeman, it's sheet SP-3 in our package.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Could you show that to Mr. Mesereau? Since we can't put it on the screen, could you show that to him?
Yes, sir. I've given Mr. Mesereau a copy. So while the folks are reviewing that, in terms of landscaping, so as Mr. Altman had indicated, we have a little under 15,000 square feet of land area to work with here. So on the smaller side of the gas stations, and we've certainly scaled down the development in accordance with that. However, as has become the trademark of BOLA and their site developments, every possible portion of the site which is not utilized for a building or another structure on the site, such as a pump island or a traffic circulation area, will be landscaped. In total, we have about 2,500 square feet of landscaping on what is a relatively small parcel. So a relatively significant percentage of the site will be landscaped. The bulk of the landscaping is going to be done at the front lot line along Sheridan. Quite frankly, that's where it has the most impact to passers-by. Along the rear of the building to the east side, we also have a very significant sized area. It's about a 40 by 45 landscaped area that's surrounding the trash enclosure. And then along that rear line, as Mr. Altman had mentioned, where we border the parking lot for the adjoining apartment buildings, we are erecting a solid 6-foot-high PVC fence, which will provide light and sound buffering to those neighbors. I'm certainly available for any other questions, and we'll stand here and answer them or come up later.
Is this a done deal with BOLA, or are you still discussing with other operators?
No, sir. This is absolutely a BOLA market. Deal is signed. Once permits are issued, construction will commence.
And they're gonna oversee the landscaping?
Yeah, actually, BOLA is going to not only franchise this site, they're also going to construct it 100%.
Because we're familiar with their landscaping, and I can't speak for the other members of the town board, but they typically do a very good job. So,
yeah, thank you, Mr. Blakeman. Honestly, I believe there is no peer in their industry with regard to what they do with their site upkeep and their landscaping. They are absolutely number one in the industry.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Quick question, if I can. The northwest section, there's a item marked flag, that's the United States flag?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
25-foot flagpole, sir.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add to the presentation before we make public comment?
No, thank you. I'm here to answer any questions. I think maybe Mr. Altman.
Absolutely, please, hold on, let him write that down first, we can answer that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Supervisor, before I conclude and turn it over to the public, I just want to note for the record, and hopefully they are on the Zoom call, we had John Breslin from Breslin Appraisals and Andrew Valari from Stonehill Engineering, who is a licensed engineer. We asked them to be available for the Zoom call if the board should have any questions as it relates to, again, their areas of expertise in this application. So hopefully they're on the Zoom call.
And just to clarify, Mr. Moderator of our webinar there, you want to identify if anybody is available?
Yes, Supervisor, and Andrew Valari is a participant on our GoToWebinar.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Before we, public comment, I'm of course just going to simply wipe it down again. Thank you very much. I know we have one or two slips. We have our first speaker coming up, and if you could identify your name again and your address for the record.
Frank, I told my middle name is confusing. Frank Mesmo.
Thank you, Frank.
16 Elizabeth Street, representing the Civic Association. Once again, we welcome as much activity in the inland area as we can. Everybody has to make a living, and we're happy that the result of the result of it. Now I didn't catch it. I'm sitting back there, I couldn't hear. Now you asked people to respond, and you gave a bunch of cards. How many people? I'm sure it's in favorable.
There were over 250 mailings in this case.
Okay, so just so it's reflected, you said you had mailed over 250 mailings sent for this matter. Is that accurate?
It was a little over 200 certified mailings.
Okay, so we'll, for the record, you identify as over 200 certified mailings, a little over that. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty expensive.
Before you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. Mesro, are you familiar with the site, the existing site?
I know there used to be a Shell station there, very fine.
Do you want to show Mr. Mesro the current condition of the site?
Yeah, I know it's bad. I don't have the existing condition. I don't have to see it. It's my practice to check them the morning of the hearing, to go out there and take. Yeah, it's a little on the ugly side. Yeah, a little on the ugly. So that will be, but it's not coming out to Bayview Avenue. It's not a corner station. No, sir. No. There is a street there. I don't know whether you're involved in that. Kelly Street, are you familiar with that at all? I don't. Kelly, I don't know whether it's on your map there or not. And I don't know exactly, but it seems like it could be a border. The property on the south side could be a bordering street. But it's completely, it's a public street. But it must be, it's a dead end, so it's in on Sheridan Boulevard up against the housing that's there. There must be 10 cars side by side, fills up the whole street, just abandoned altogether by, I have to assume, the town government. It might have gone into other hands. I'm not aware of that. Maybe they.
Right. What I'll do is since you're making that out, I'll ask them to go down. If we have to call up the Nassau County Police Department, we'll do that as well as a follow-up on that. And I'll ask our building department to follow up on that. John, okay? Thank you.
Whatever it is, it should be taken care of. You know, it might not be part of this application. The town government should research it and correct whatever has to be done there. It shouldn't just be utilized as it is being used.
Yep.
The Sheridan Boulevard is extremely heavy, four-lane highway, very heavily traffic coming out of Far Rockaway, Queens, people coming up to the Nassau Expressway. It makes it a very busy highway. So it's just, I don't want to delay the hearing, but it just seems like, is there electric, you're a gas station, but you can provide electric, is that required to do electric with the electrical cars that they're developing? No, okay, well, maybe she considers doing it. Yeah. So, okay, and the last thing I'll say is, the town of Hempstead, I can't remember the details strictly, but years ago, these applications used to go before the Board of Zoning meetings. And then the town board, there was such controversy of situating the town as the town and the county grew eastward. There was all kinds of applications for service stations all over the place. and the town board took over this activity of approving gas stations, because they can collect cars, and it becomes a real busy scene. So the town controls that now.
Thank you, Frank. We appreciate you coming in. We appreciate the feedback and letting us know the condition down there. And I told you we'll follow up on that other street issue for you. So thank you very much. All right. Stay safe. Always a pleasure. Did anybody else in the public wish to be heard on this matter that is here today? Okay. If not, this is the big chance where you can click that raise your hand button and get on our webpage, go to webinar. And I'm now going to ask our moderator to give us the information.
Supervisor, two participants have clicked raise their hand. The first is Gary Ain. Gary, you can go ahead and make your comments. Gary, you're muted on your end. Please unmute on your device.
Gary?
Good morning. Sorry about that. This is Gary from West New York. I'm involved with the ownership of the building to the northeast of this property. We're with the Human Group. I'd like to start off by saying that we're not opposed to having a gas station here and any kind of development in the community we are in favor of. But there are two serious issues here that I would like to bring to the board's attention that are of great concern. The first one is the placement of the bowler building. It's going to close the line of sight to our adjoining property. Our adjoining property is a parking apron, which the only way we can get in and out of the property is basically by backing out onto Sheridan Boulevard. This is a very busy thoroughfare, as previously mentioned. Cars seem to go way above the speed limit in this area, and there's high congestion of traffic. And based on the placement of the building especially being almost all the way out to the sidewalk, people are not going to be able to see cars backing out of our property at 72 Sheridan Boulevard. And I just think that this is a huge accident waiting to happen, a very dangerous situation with the line of sight being blocked over there. As I said, we can only back out of our property, and people backing out are not going to be able to see oncoming traffic, and oncoming traffic is not going to be able to see anybody backing out of the property. So that is my number one concern. Number two concern is the parking situation. I know that they're going for a parking variance. I don't think that there's enough parking here for the site or for the size of the building. There's very limited parking other than on site for this site. There's just a few spots out in the street. I'm familiar with rollers that draw a lot of traffic. The combination of people that are getting gas and then going to the convenience store, as well as people coming in from the street to go to the convenience store. 6 regular spots, I don't think is going to cut it for the size. And the size of the building is not helping. And I'm concerned that people have to enter from the other side of the property. So if they're going to go to the convenience store, they have to enter from the south side. More people are going to be pulling up onto the sidewalk in front of the boulevard, Sheridan Boulevard, to go into the bowler market. I'm also concerned about people coming onto our property or blocking our property or blocking our egress and ingress to run into the bowler market, to use the bathroom, to get cigarettes, cup of coffee, whatever it may be. And it's also that's going to substantially take away a little bit of parking that exists in the area over there.
So, sir, this is Councilman Blakeman. Could you identify, I didn't hear, where is the location of your property?
It is northeast of the boulevard, northeast of the site. It's 72 Sheridan Boulevard. It's beyond the site line here.
Okay, so it's northeast. About how far is it from the boulevard side?
It is virtually touching the boulevard.
Gotcha. Okay. So you have the engineer for the applicant available? Did you ask the engineer, is it possible to move the building back a little bit to improve the sight line?
Are you asking me about this, engineer?
Yes, so good afternoon. Gary, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name. Can you hear me?
Yeah, A-N.
Okay, my name is Chris Tartaglia. I don't know if you heard my introduction earlier, but I'm the engineer for MOLA. Thank you for your comments. Just a couple of things that I'd like to address that you brought up. I do see that your building is built very close to the lot line. It's probably set off of the right-of-way, maybe 15 or 18 feet. So as I look at an aerial photo of the property, I do see you've got cars parked along the front of your building, perpendicular to the roadway, and indeed you do have to back out. I see some other interesting things, though, as I look, and I've studied this site. I see a lot of vehicles parked in front of your driveway, blocking your driveway, and I presume those are also vehicles that are utilized in conjunction with your business. Would that be the case?
We are landlords. We rent out the property. It's a rental property, so I can't really speak for the tenants that are in the building.
So what is the property being used as now, your property?
So it's currently used as auto repair.
As an auto repair shop? Okay. And your property, is that the same setback as the proposed BOLA?
The building is set back much further in than the BOLA building. I'm not exactly sure how many feet in it is, but it's substantial.
Tartaglia, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, so as I'm looking at the aerial photo and the survey evidence, it looks like their building is set back probably about 18 feet perhaps, and the proposed BOLA market is set back a little over 4 feet at its closest point. But with that, I just would also like to mention that from the curb line, we're set back an additional 14 feet. So our actual setback from the curb line is closer to 18 feet. With that also, there's on-street parking, as I just mentioned, that actually fronts the Kohler's property as well as ours. And one important, very, very important point I want to mention, and I'm glad that Gary brought this up. So if you notice on our site plan, I would presume that currently today, backing out of those driveways, as long as the tenants move their cars that are in front of this auto shop, the other cars that are parked along that street, again, they're certainly not in conjunction with the current use of our property, because our property's been closed for some time. It's not operational. So I presume that those cars may be used in conjunction with Gary's tenant's operation. Now, I just would like to inform Gary that based on the DPW commentary, we are mandated to install no parking signs along our entire property frontage. So I think with that, that might create a bit of an issue for Gary's tenants, but I think it's going to clear up a safety issue, because parked cars will block visibility of people trying to back out of a driveway just as much as our building would. So I think we're actually making the situation significantly better in terms of a safety perspective. As to who owns the cars and why they're parked on the street, again, I don't know if they're in affiliation with that business, but certainly a business that has a lot of vehicles associated with it and allowing almost no on-site parking does not really appear to be a problem that BOLA can or should have to fix.
I would like to respond to that. First by saying that I wasn't aware of any parking out in front of the whole site. That's even more of a problem, because that takes a little bit more parking from the area. There's really very little cross-street parking over there. There's no side streets or anywhere else where anybody can park. In addition, having a car parked in the street is much different than having a building height, a big building block all the way out by the curb or close to the street, let's just say. That's completely blocked from any all visibility from anybody going out. It's not like a car where somebody can see something, and right now there's no structure there, so there is an opportunity there for somebody to be able to see somebody backing out.
So Mr. Rain, this is Bruce Blakeman again. Basically, do you know whether your tenant is using Sheridan Boulevard to park cars that are waiting to be repaired? Because typically the town board frowns on that. The parking should be for local retail use. So do you know what the situation is there?
And like number over there, I'm sorry, if the customer's pulling up over there, they may not even belong to that site. I don't know whose cars those are, to be honest with you.
Okay, so, yeah, so basically, you know, it appears to me that in this particular area, that basically there's not a lot of retail adjacent to either one of the properties, your property or the proposed application. So I don't know why there would be a lot of cars parked on the street there unless they were cars that were being utilized by your company waiting for repair, which again, you know, is not a good use of parking in the township.
We have a very small building, and with renovation to this site, we have a big parking lot in the back and on the side of the building. It's not just limited to the front over there. There's also a body shop across the street. I don't know who else is over there. There's another multi-use building right across the street that has very little, if any, off-site parking. I can't speak for who those cars are, and I don't think that that's the issue at hand. The issue at hand here is people backing out of our site and the line of sight being blocked by the roller building. I think the roller building needs to be, the front of it needs to be reduced in size by the street, either by making the building smaller, moving it back further, or moving it to another part of the site.
Okay, well, we'll take your comments into consideration.
Thank you very much for your input and your comments. Mr. Moderator, host, do we have anybody else with their hand raised on the GoToWebinar?
Supervisor, no other participant, click raise your hand on this public hearing.
Great. Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, I move that the public hearing be closed and that the decision be reserved.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Greenie.
Aye.
Councilman Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarello.
Aye. Madam Clerk, before we move on to the next administrative calendar, I'd like to recall item 30115 in relation to it. Mr. COVID, the motion should be to reserve the decision on that. Is there a recommendation for that?
You're right, Supervisor. The referral to the Planning Commission under General Municipal Law 239M took place on September 8th. 30 days have not elapsed, and therefore it is the prudent move to reserve decision and to await the input from the Planning Commission.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we rescind approval of item number 30115, that we reserve decision pending communications from the Planning Commission.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Greenie.
Aye.
Councilman Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarello.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the administrative calendar.
All right, we have items 1 through 32 on the administrative calendar. I also have 3 resolutions that are of an urgent or emergency nature. The first is entitled Resolution Authorizing the Grant of Funds to Northwell Health to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to establish multiple COVID-19 PCR diagnostic testing sites throughout the town of Hempstead. The second emergency resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the third emergency resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase general fund estimated revenues, an increase to general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and the increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the town of Hempstead general fund undistributed. These will be items 33 through 35 on the administrative calendar.
Does any member of the board wish to sever any item? Does any member of the board wish to be heard on any item on the administrative calendar? But before so, I do want to just address the hand-up resolutions regarding the testing. As everyone is well aware, the town of Hempstead was able to receive received CARES funding due to Senator Schumer, and we've done numerous items to help the public in general. One of the big successes recently has been with Northwell, where we've teamed up for antibody testing. We've now been able to test thousands of people in the town of Hempstead, which is a wonderful way to prevent. We do not go backwards in time to where we are in March and April. But after talking with Northwell and recently of last week, notification that there was a spike in the numbers that came up, Northwell has now been able to give us a presentation for expanding it to PCR diagnostic testing, which frankly comes down to preventing a second wave. You know, everyone's going back to work, everyone's going to school, and the numbers have gone up. We do not want to do that. I think this is a commendable program with Northwell. They've done a great job. I'm glad we're able to team up and do the right thing with this CARES funding for these sort of programs. And I just wanted to thank Northwell as well as the board members who are helping make sure that these testing facilities and these sites are throughout the town, and especially in some of the hot spots in the town of Hempstead. So I want to thank all of you for that. Anybody else wish to be heard on this on the town board? All right, I'm now going to see if any member of the public wishes to be heard. I have a couple of slips in. I'll start with Diane Madden. Nope, move the calendar, Madam Clerk?
I'm sorry?
Do I move the administrative calendar first?
Yes, what to do that?
Okay, I'll move the administrative calendar first before we have the public comment.
Administrative calendar from 1 through 35.
Second.
Supervisor Cleveland?
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Councilman Tree?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilman Lucy? Aye. Councilman Muscarello?
Aye. I know a number of slips, so we'll start again with Diane Madden. If you give your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Diane Madden, Hempstead, New York. Item number 7, with regards to the contract with Wanda Animal Hospital. Did someone tell me if this is, what treatment will they provide?
We have our commissioner here. Marina?
This is an extension, a 1-year extension on a town requirements contract for our outside veterinarians. Since it's a renewal, it's Central Vet in Merritt, New York Vet in Farmingdale, and Montauk Animal Hospital. Those are the usual stuff that are in the requirements contract, whatever the town needs.
Thank you.
So my question is, whatever the town needs, will these veterinarians be conducting any TNR?
They will conduct TNR as they have in the past, as needed. If something emergency arises, there's no vet on site, some type of situation like that. So the answer is possibly yes.
Absolutely yes. Okay, because emergencies have arisen. I had gotten a message from a board member of Animal Lifeline, who have been a rescue organization for many, many years, probably at least 2 decades. I'll read what she wrote. Animal Lifeline, the group I am a board member of, has shut down for the time being. A direct comparison of our bills last year compared to this year are bluntly horrendous. We cannot sustain our assistance to the TNR community. Clavin's terrible decision is solely responsible for us closing down. So these contracts that are being renewed, I urge the board, well, first of all, I urge you to immediately reinstate the on-site program, but at the very least, start allowing these vets, some of them are very, very good, particularly Montauk, to start conducting some of this TNR. Maybe instead of hanging up on that woman that has the issue with 18 cats, you can refer her to one of these veterinarians to help immediately. The other item was the changes to, I believe, some transfers and hiring. My comments have absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Rodkamp directly. I've only had positive and friendly exchanges with him over the years, but this speaks to a pattern. I mean, for Laura Gillen, it was more of a target, but this department is not alone, in the sense that the town board, the Republican Party, keeps putting in people that have not the expertise, but the right connections. And with relation to the animal shelter, it's no different. And in fact, Supervisor Clavin, it was your promise to take the animal shelter out of general services. And also, you personally suggested transferring the director. I have no idea why he's even here at these meetings. I can only say that the further he's away from animals, probably the better off for them. But I urge you, you had mentioned that you were thinking of this transfer from the building department, and I urge you to consider your promises and keeping them with regards to the animal shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Felix Bercacci. Good morning. Your name and address for the record, please.
Felix Bercacci, Franklin Square. First of all, on those additional administrative items, I hope the town clerk puts them on the website so I don't have to FOIL them. Also, on the transfer of John Rodkamp. In 2007, John Rodkamp was selected to be the building commissioner by the Hempstead Town Board without having the qualifications required by Hempstead Town Code, violating the law. This fact was brought to the attention of this town board several times over the last few years, but this board took no action. Last year, the village of Floral Park selected a licensed architect to be its superintendent of buildings. Floral Park, a village with a population of less than 3% the size of Hempstead Town, has a more qualified person leading their building department. The recent resignation letter of a building department employee makes public what has been known to this board for some time, and that is John Rodkamp has not done a good job at the Hempstead building as a Hempstead building commissioner. In 2019, during a hearing to have the audit of the building department operations, many residents came forward with complaints about the building department and asked for improvements. At this point in time, Mr. Rodkamp has been commissioner for over 11 years. I object to the salary increase and transfer of John Rodkamp to the Planning and Economic Development because he has no experience for that position. The town board should instead select one of the deputies to be commissioner because they have more experience. John Rodkamp is an electrician. If there is an open position in the town for an electrician, Mr. Rodkamp should be considered for that job. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have another slip here, and that is Joseph Ty. Let's see if he's outside. Mr. Ty is in here. Does any member of the audience wish to be heard on the administrative calendar? Okay, I think we already have a motion on that. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
We actually do a roll call.
Excellent. Then I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
I believe that the motion was made for the administrative calendar to defer.
Oh, yes.
At least in the abundance of caution. Yes, thank you. And abundance of caution, I think the procedure should be to adopt.
Great. Let's have a motion to adopt the administrative calendar in its entirety.
Right.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
To adopt the administrative calendar in its entirety, 1-35.
Second. Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blake. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boothby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Second. Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blake. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boothby. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. And now the formal portion of the town board meeting is done. The town board will remain to listen to public comments. Let's check, we have a couple of sign-ins here. I'll start with Diane Madden. Name and address for the record, please.
Diane Madden, Hempstead, New York. So I brought along the consequences to this board's failure in reinstating the on-site program. It is raining kittens throughout Hempstead. I had gotten a call from someone in Elmont, a taxpayer in Elmont, that actually stayed outside for 2 nights feeding this little one to try to keep her alive. I don't know who is the council person for Elmont, but I urge you to do something. There are 17 more cats in her yard, and she said she doesn't remember seeing cats the prior years. So it's out of control. I look at her like she's a good Samaritan, and then I think about this board. And you're the ones that are supposed to be the good Samaritans. You have the money, you have the power, you have the resources, and you have no excuses. I'd like an update from any one of you on if and when this on-site program will be reinstated. It is urgently needed. Last Hope has run out of money. Tender Loving Cats has run out of money. Everyone's tried to compensate. I'm even trying to compensate. I wasn't going to see this kitten stay out another night. When is the program getting reinstated? It can be done contactless. If the issue is ACOs, I never was supportive of the ACOs trapping cats. I had approached this board many times, suggesting that you contract trappers, not friends and family, but known professional trappers, and dispatch them from the animal shelter and get this done, cost effectively and efficiently, instead of what we're seeing now. And I'm sure you're all hearing about it. So if someone could please give me an update on what's happening with the TNR program. My understanding is that the director is training new part-timers to trap. I mean, the shelter's filled with chaos at this time. Something that you, Supervisor Clavin, agreed to fix. Can anyone please give me an update? Can anyone tell me if the organization you contracted with, because my understanding is nothing is being done inside the shelter even to prepare for the public to come in or the volunteers to return. So I see all of these millions of dollars being spent by the board, but my understanding is nothing done except for a plastic shield at the counter. Can I get an update on the TNR on-site program?
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Always a pleasure. Next, I'm going to call up Felix Bertacci. Name and address for the record, please.
Felix Bertacci. At the last meeting, Supervisor Clavin indicated that other governments are not being transparent in the way they spend federal CARES funds. Clavin said, and I quote, from the transcript, "I think in this entire process, we are being more open and transparent than anyone else is doing in the United States of America." Prior to this, Supervisor Clavin said, and again I quote from the transcript, "Just so you know, there is actually, I don't think anyone else, definitely in New York State, John Master Marino would probably agree with me, let alone in the nation, that is actually doing what we are doing." And in a Newsday article dated September 8th, Supervisor Clavin is quoted saying, "Not anywhere else in New York or the nation is there a town as open and transparent to show exactly the drawdowns in funding." Well, I didn't check every municipality in the nation, but I did check a few. Suffolk County, North Hempstead, and Passaic and Union counties in New Jersey. All these municipalities have put resolutions regarding their care spending on their website. This information is in the form of resolutions voted on by the legislative bodies of each of these entities. A North Hempstead town resolution I came across was very detailed. For example, it broke down the amount of money they spent on masks, Lysol, disinfectant wipes, laptops for their 311 system, and a security device that could handle 100 VPN connections for their people working from home. Suffolk, Passaic, and Union counties also provided a lot of details in their resolutions. The fact of the matter is there are other entities that are very transparent in the way they are reporting their care spending. My recommendation to Supervisor Clavin is to check your facts before you make public statements. My recommendation to the Newsday and other news outlets that cover the town of Hempstead is make sure town officials are making accurate statements before you report them. And also, regarding the online participation of meetings, why not allow people who want to speak on administrative calendar and public hearings to also speak? Because very few people speak on public hearings. A lot of people come to these meetings to speak on miscellaneous calendar, and you should give them an opportunity to speak also. Once again, Floral Park does 3% of the population of the town of Hempstead. That's the size of Floral Park, and they do more than the town of Hempstead with a lot less money. Why is that?
Thanks, Country. You have a great day. John Masparino, quick question for you. Did North Hempstead receive any federal CARES funding? I don't believe they did. Is that correct? They did not. I just wanted to make sure when we were talking about being accurate. Thank you. Next, I'm going to bring up.
They did not receive directly what they received from national reported in their resolution. No, because you're trying to mislead the public. Because once again, you want to mislead the public. You want to mislead the public.
Supervisor, if I
I
may.
appreciate you coming today, though. Thank you.
Supervisor, if I may, can we just ask General Services to clean off that microphone?
Thank you very much. Our next guest speaker will be.
Just one moment. I think it might be appropriate at this point to allow the public to be aware that protocols were set in place for COVID mitigation. Why the council asked that this microphone be wiped off. The microphone.
Joe, if you can speak into the microphone, just the councilman was saying, if you just notify it to the.
I'd rather not speak into the microphone. My point was that the entire protocol was put into place. And the protocol that was put into place did not allow a member of the public of his own initiative to run up to the microphone here and begin addressing the public, to address the board. That is to be done from that microphone. And these protocols have to be observed because they are part of COVID mitigation. So it's a public health as well as a safety administrative matter. And in the future, if someone violates it, they will be ejected from the meeting.
I appreciate that, and you're right, we have these protocols, and it's unfortunate that people at times just feel the need to, they think they're loud, they scream and do whatever they want, they can, but I appreciate it. And again, I appreciate the staff doing a tremendous job with these protocols, so thank you. Well done. Next, I'm going to bring up Maria Angel. Good morning. Your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Maria Angel, Oceanside, New York. I am here today for the third time in a row, for the same reason I was here in August and September, which is Town of Hempstead's refusal to turn over FOIA documents. The Freedom of Information Law has been passed to have an open government accountable to the people. And by denying FOIA requests, the town of Hempstead and the officials specifically are interfering with the very purpose of FOIA. For 7 months now, I have requested these documents, starting with Mike Pastore, the director of Animal Shelter, he has refused to turn over FOIL documents. Moving on to Marie Jerome, FOIL record officer. She selected what she wanted to produce and refused to turn over FOIL documents that are crucial to my request. Charles Covitt, FOIL appellate attorney, he has refused to turn over FOIL documents. Not a single document. He declared up front that he's not releasing anything, that everything has already been released, when in fact it hadn't been released. Kate Murray, clerk of town of Hempstead, I have approached her as well, in her capacity of clerk, obviously, and authority over FOIL requests, but my efforts amounted to zero. Anthony Desposito, councilman, I was instructed to approach him. I did. After about a week of investigation, the case was closed. My requests were closed. I guess they were inconvenient. And finally, Supervisor Don Clavin, I'm again appealing to your authority to issue an executive order to the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter to turn over FOIL documents. And since this is the third time I'm here for that, I would ask why, or if you have done it, and if not, why not?
Mr. Covitt, the response to my understanding is the request has been filled because there are no documents. Is that accurate?
That's correct. We gave her every single document in the animal shelter's possession as to which cats we have taken possession of, anything having to do with her situation. There are some notes that she says exist. We don't have them.
Okay, so they've indicated they've given you everything they have, so they have complied with the FOIL request.
So the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter has a policy. And there's no excuse to say that they don't have a policy. If you include the policy, and you excluded just now all 4 requests that I made, the last requests. You mentioned briefly certain requests that I had previously made, but you left out the last 4 requests. Is there any reason why FOIL agents, including you as an appellate attorney, are not producing or not compelling the animal shelter to produce those?
Again, I think Mr. Covitt says that they've submitted and given over any of the documents that they have, and there aren't any other documents. But again, I appreciate it, but they indicate to me they've turned over everything they had, so thank you.
So that there's no purpose in, I mean, if this meeting...
I appreciate it. Like I said, they've indicated they've turned over everything they had. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next, we're going to call up Mr. Stu Kroll. Give it a second while my wife's that down. Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Cleveland, we now have at least 45,000 signatures on a petition asking the TNR be resumed at the town shelter. It is pretty evident.
Just if we can get your name and address to the record, thanks.
Stu Kroll, Great Neck. We now have over 45,000 signatures on a petition asking the TNR be resumed at the town shelter. It is pretty evident that this town board has no interest in the wishes of their constituents. One asks, how can you have this happen and still hope to be reelected? The answer is party leaders with very questionable ethics, and more importantly, the indifference of many citizens due to their life circumstances. It is our job, one I take very seriously, to educate all citizens who their representatives are and what they stand for. We have a town shelter with no volunteers allowed. The public is also prohibited. No matter how beautiful the weather, our dogs languish in their cages. Our cats are shipped off to Massachusetts, Good Shepherd Sanctuary in Maryland, and God knows where else. We pay Good Shepherd $350 a cat, with the funds apparently coming from the Tales for Hope Fund. According to at least one audit, these funds should have been segregated in the 501c3 formed. Why is everything open to the public but our shelter closed? But wait, we can still rent traps there, while everything else is open, albeit at limited capacity. There were far fewer cats being fixed at Central Vet than at the shelter. Trappers never know how many cats they will catch. It is not practical to go to a colony to attempt to catch one cat on a particular day. There was unprecedented suffering on the street due to the lack of available TNR. What is the secret plan? To ship out as many animals as possible and then privatize the shelter? No doubt our director and unqualified behaviors will keep their patronage jobs. Mr. Clayton, we are about halfway through your term as supervisor. People voted for you based on certain promises. Exactly. People voted for you based on certain promises you made. It is time to see if you have kept your word to your constituents. You promised to bring Miss Madden, an eminently qualified person, in to help get the shelter back on the right path. You reneged on that promise. Instead, you have closed the shelter to the public, neglected animals, and shipped out as many as you could. I have to admit you did what I thought was impossible. I congratulate you for this. You have made the shelter much worse than it ever was. At least Laura Gillen gave us a fresh coat of paint. You stated there would be no patronage or job favors in your administration. At a 10-minute post-pandemic meeting, you gave out $750,000 in raises and promotions. Well, I guess that didn't work much. How many resignations of commissioners have you accepted? Just as I would have expected, none. You have taken away the right of all employed people and stay-at-home mothers to express their opinions, to their elected representatives. Why are emails, maybe somebody can answer that, no longer allowed to be read into the record? Nobody commenting there? On the app expanded to allow public comment. It couldn't be that you don't want to hear from the public. All you want are their votes. Well, rest assured, your attempt to silence the public will not be successful. Have a good day. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Mr. Crowley. You have a great day. Next, I'm going to call, after the white man is done, Richard Sherman. No one here? Okay. Next, I'm going to call up Christine Scanfidi. Okay. Your name and address of the record, please.
Christine Scavidi, East Meadow. Supervisor Clavin and panel here, I have addressed a specific issue concerning the TNR program back in August 4th. You may recall I mentioned I was doing a SNAP test for your former TNR program, which tested the feral cats for FIV and leukemia. I had mentioned it's very controversial. I am very disappointed to hear that Mary at Central Veterinary Associates has informed me that Mike Pastore, who is the director of the shelter, which isn't even in charge of the TNR program, has instructed them to discontinue this test. Why is this test important? Because we can further thin the population. We've got a problem here, right? We're willing to do late-term abortions, which I support. I'm not saying I don't. But why would Mike Pastore say that he changed this policy, which existed prior? I would pay the town an additional $25 per cat to test them, and I was able to authorize euthanization for the cats that tested positive. Why would we not want to test them anymore and put them back in the street? Does that make sense? They're terminally ill and they're contagious. So if you have residents who let their cats out, not that I support it, they can get in a fight with a cat, and that's the #1 way in which they contract this. What if a cat gets lost and gets out by accident? Is that fair to your residents? I don't understand this. Why would Mike Pastore support this? It's outrageous. Further, okay, aside from that, which I really need you to follow up on, I beg of you to allow me to do that again. I might also add that these animals are sickly, so they can have pretty smelly, loose dumps on your residents' property. They can vomit on their property. I don't think the residents want them either, okay? Now, other than that, let's see. We're significantly limiting the trappers to only 2 cats per day. I don't know if you're aware of it, but some of these trappers were coming in with more than 10, up to 20 in the previous TNR program. So we're not going to have an effective way of controlling this population. We are no longer given paperwork. I would also, I know I'm not the only one who did this. If a cat was social, showed signs of being social, or was a kitten that could be socialized, I would further reduce the population in the street by working with them to put them up for adoption.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Did any other member of the audience here today wish to be heard? If not, everybody have a wonderful day and stay safe. Thank you all.